Hello there, Andy here again. Now, if you remember in the last video, I showed you the formula for learning to play all of the major and minor chords. Today, in this video, we're going to be learning some of the less common chords, the sevenths, the augmented and diminished, and the suspended chords. So before you go through this video, if you haven't done so already, you should really look at the other two videos I made before this. You should be familiar with how to find all of the notes on the keyboard, and you should be familiar with how to make all of the major and minor chords. Like I say, there's two other videos I made before this one covering this subject. Right, presuming that you've done that, let's start with the seventh. There are quite a few different types of seventh chords that you'll come across. There's the normal seventh, or the dominant seventh as it's sometimes called. There's the minor seventh and the major seventh. Okay, so we'll start off, we'll take a look at the normal seventh chord, or the dominant seventh. Now, if you see a chord with a 7 written after it, C7 for instance, then it's taken for granted that it's just referring to the dominant seventh, the normal seventh chord. So let's take a look at how it looks on the piano. To form this chord, we take our basic 3-note major chord as a reference point. So if you remember, from the root, you count up 4 notes and then 3 notes. Let's take it in C, for example. So C, up 4, to the E, and up 3, to the G. That's our C major chord. To make this chord into a seventh, we have to add one more note. The seventh, or the dominant seventh, in this case, is 2 semitones down from the root. So here's the root, the C. 2 semitones down would be a B flat. So for now, we'll play this B flat up here at the top, 1 octave above, and we'll play it at the top of the chord. So we'll play a C major with a B flat at the top, and that's C7, or dominant seventh. Now, using this rule, G7, for example, would be as follows. It'll be a G, B, and D, which is the G major chord, and 2 notes down from the G is the F. So it's G, B, D with an F at the top. G7. Now the minor seventh, it's the same rule, but to a minor chord. So, for example, A minor is this. A, C and E is A minor. 2 semitones down from the dominant, from the root, 2 semitones down from the root is G. So, A, C, E, G. That's A minor 7. You'll see it written with an A, a small m, and a 7. Another way of working it out is by saying that it's actually another 3 semitones up from the 5th, or the top of the chord. In this case, A, C, E, 1, 2, 3 is a G. That's just another way of working it out. So for example, D minor 7 would be this. That's your D chord, D minor chord. 3 semitones up is a C. So that's D minor 7. You know, the C is also 2 semitones down from the D. D minor 7. So the other type of seventh I'm going to show you today is the major seventh. Now this is formed the same as the normal seventh, but instead of counting down 2 notes from the root, you only count down 1 note. So for instance, going back to C, here's our chord of C. 1 note down from the root is a B. We'll put this B at the top of the chord. And there we have C major 7. Or another way of doing it would be to say, instead of one semitone down from the root, you could play your chord and say from the top note of the chord, it's 4 semitones up. So G major 7, for example, would be G, B and D, up 4 more to an F sharp, which is actually 1 semitone down from the G. G major 7. So that's all of the sevenths. Now on to the diminished chords. A diminished chord is basically a minor chord with the fifth or the top note lowered by 1 semitone. Let's go to our example in the key of C. Here we have C minor, C, E flat and G. G is the fifth, so the top note lowered by 1 semitone from the G to the F sharp. And then we have our chord of C diminished. And the chord of A minor, here we have A minor, A, C and E. We move the E down 1 note to an E flat. Now that was easy, wasn't it? So now on to the augmented chords. An augmented chord is exactly the opposite of the diminished chord. Instead of a minor chord, it's a major chord. And instead of flattening the top note, we actually sharpen it. We move it up 1 semitone. So we take a major chord and move the top note up 1 semitone. And that's C augmented. C, E and G sharp. A augmented, for example, would be, here's our chord of A major, augmented, we move up 1 semitone the top note, here we have A augmented. A, C sharp and F, which is actually an E sharp in this case. Now, suspended chords, or sus chords as they're sometimes written, these are chords which the third note, the middle note, has been replaced with a fourth or a second. Okay, so let me explain. The most common sus chord is the sus4. Now, if you see C sus written without a number, then it's assumed that you play the chord of C sus4. So let's take the major chord, C, C major. Now raise the middle note, the third, raise it 1 semitone up to the fourth note. So from the E to the F. And that's C sus4 or C sus. G sus would in this case be formed by taking a G chord, G, B and D, and now we raise the middle note, the B, up to the C. D sus4 would be as follows. D, F sharp and A, we take the middle note, the F sharp, and move it up to the A. Now, suspended chords create a sort of tension and space in the texture of harmony. They're usually resolved after being played by putting the fourth back to its original place. So you can see, for example, the C sus4 is often followed by a C. Okay, so the sus2 is formed by taking the third and lowering it by 2 semitones down to the second note of the scale. C sus2 in this case would be, it's C, E and G with the E lowered 2 semitones to a D. C sus2. D sus2 would be D, F sharp and A, with the F sharp being lowered down to the E, D sus2. So that's the 7th, the minor 7th, the major 7th, the diminished, the augmented, the sus4 and the sus2. So just to go over them once more, they are, for the chord of C, in the key of C, they are C7, C major, with a B flat, 2 notes down from the root, or 3 notes up from the 5th. C minor 7, exactly the same but in minor. So C minor, 3 notes up from the 5th is the B flat, or 2 notes down from the root. C major 7 is a major chord, 4 notes up from the 5th, or 1 semitone down from the root. So it's C major with a B. C diminished is the C minor with the 5th down a semitone. C augmented, the opposite of the diminished, it's a C major with a 5th upper semitone. C augmented. C sus4, a chord of C with the middle note raised upper semitone to the 4th. And C sus2, a C chord with the C, the middle note, the E, the 3rd, lowered 2 semitones to the D, to the 2nd. So with all of these chords, you should now be able to play or work out most tunes from any chord chart or fake book. So check out my website for more information on how to learn the piano, and keep an eye out for my beginner's piano course that should be coming out very soon. Okay, see you next time.